Okay, so yeah, the sun and the hologram. So we have all these pictures and everything. There's sort of two suns showing up, right? And so we've touched a little bit about on that before we recorded last time. We just talked about it, I think, in the Skype group. But anyway, what I wanted to see if where you guys, what your feelings are on that. Because my feeling on that is that because we're in this our holographic reality is actually what's been invaded with overlay. Okay, so we have two realities here. Okay, one is organic, ours, and that what we create, even though it may not be what we want to create, but we still create it. And so that is manipulated by this, which runs sort of in friction. So it's like a Merkaba, because Merkaba field one is ours, organic expression, and then the overlay on top of it is what's the inorganic, the invasion of ours. And so it spins in the different, one is clockwise, the other is counterclockwise. And so that friction energy is what creates that 5 chakras, that, inorganic energy field. Well, it's not inorganic, it's invaded. So if our holographic reality is invaded like that, our solar system is also invaded. So, and just like with us, we have the 2nd and the 6th chakra that are completely not ours. Those are inserts. Same thing with some of the things in our solar system. So as far as I can understand, Saturn is completely an holographic insert. Okay? Well, it's not, it feeds off of our sun and our planet. And that's where the overlay reality for our solar system is located, Saturn. Okay, that's the Saturn matrix sort of thing. So for our solar system. And our real sun has what we see, because what we look out there, we look through this filter that's overlay. So it's got to have this another holographic representation of the sun that would represent this energy that's invasive energy. So the way I understand, the holograph is the front of the sun that we see. So when we look here, there's a hologram. Behind that, there's our actual real sun.
The next day I stood in the sun in the morning before I went into work early. And I actually felt that. The way you just described it. I didn't see it, I see it. But it felt right for what it's worth. And it wasn't like a second sun like we see the pictures, two individual, usually at the western where the sun goes down. That's what the pictures generally are. It wasn't that. It was it just felt like honest to God, like like there was a screen in front of it, and the yellow we see was not like you said. You said it literally. You said it's not the same color. It isn't yellow, or I look at it as mostly white, to me anyway.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying relative to what you're saying? You asked, well, what is it? What did you get out of it, or something like that? That's what I got out of it the next day, and it just kind of stuck with me that way.
Okay.
So HK, I'm trying to relate HK position, words, different language.
Yeah.
So Steve has the conjunction, which is 2013 through 23. And as the cycles of time, what is it, Lily? Golden age, dark age, whatever? What's yours?
What do you mean? Positive and negative?
Yeah, golden age.
Silver, golden, and are you talking about that?
The back and forth.
Oh, the back and forth. Okay. Well, that's the matrix system. But the whole cycle is one matrix cycle.
Okay.
And so right now we are at the end of the matrix cycle. So we're in conjunction time, which is 10 years, right? And so this is our opportunity to change our past or change our history or change in the now moment the choice that we're making for a future time cycle.
Right. So Steve says either you Groundhog Day, meaning repeat the cycles of time, or you do something different, which your language is Earth timeline, Inelia's is the new element, 0 point, whatever you want to call that. So is that why we're seeing two suns? Is because we're in this conjunction and the matrices or these time cycles are overlaying for a moment.
Yes. And this is, I think, this is all related to the all other glitches that are happening in the matrix and showing up. The glitch, there is many different glitches, you know, like not too long ago, I posted that who's spraying, there's somebody cut that video that the airplane turns into orb and they spray chemtrails. This is also a glitch in the matrix because that hologram of the airplane glitched out. So there's a lot of glitches, and what happens is they show up because people are more aware of these glitches, and it does a lot more damage because once the person think, okay, maybe there's something else behind that, then the observer, that person becomes the observer, so the observer affects what's going on with that. So if the observer decides to see the truth, the universe has to show them the truth. So these glitches, they will show up, and the more they show up, the more chance we have to be the observer of it, so we see the true reality of it.
So there's that saying, you have to believe it to see it. Like the Spaniards couldn't see the conquistador ships. They didn't even believe in ships.
That was the South Americans, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So we're getting to the point where we believe or entertain these ideas, so we're starting to see the matrix.
Exactly, yes. And so it shows up. And you remember how I said that this is the planet has already, shaken herself off of this. And so, with the tilt and then all this other stuff that's planet is doing, it's trying to get out of this prison, this holographic prison. So it's trying to shake it off. And so as it's doing that, all those things going to show up. And so because what they do, that hologram for the sun is projected by Saturn. So, there is a lot of alignments that need to happen to keep that strong, that holograph. And because we already feel that there's a holograph, then the universe is going to do all kinds of other things to where we see the truth of it, of our reality. Because we already stated, we sort of somebody said, we cast the vote and saying, I want to see the truth about it. And so the truth will show itself to you. It's just, you got to be ready to see it. That's why I say, when we say, I want to know the unknown, maybe you got to scale down a little bit because it can really come at you strong. And then at the same time, we cannot say, well, I want to see the truth about chemtrails and that, put the limits on how you're going to see it, just state out there your intent. This is what you want to know, the real truth, and allow the everything around you to bring that into your reality, your answer into your reality, because it's there. because we create here. Once we desire to know the truth about something, it will start showing itself. So,
okay, Lily.
yes.
Initially, I was not quite understanding which part of the holographic reality you were talking about as being physical or mental, because my understanding, what I internally see is that so much of the hologram is mental. It's in our minds. And I wasn't quite understanding, but you covered that just a few minutes ago by talking about how people have to agree to see it or believe to see it. And then it opens up for them. However, I'm not quite understanding about this. You're talking about what is being seen. And I have no direct experience with seeing any of this stuff. Yes, I've seen the pictures and the videos and all that stuff. But it seems to me if someone is seeing the second sun, they're not seeing the reality, they're seeing the hologram. Because the second sun is Saturn, and it's Lily, you're muted.
They're seeing the glitch. So when there is two suns, if somebody catches that, that's a glitch. That's like in the Matrix when he saw two cats. The other cat didn't stay there for too long. It disappeared too. The glitch happens really quick, and so when somebody sees it and catches that, that's just that moment, the glitch moment that they got. That's why we don't see it constantly. That doesn't happen constantly, because that hologram, because of the angle of it, and somebody cut it. But
but if they're seeing the glitch, they're tuned into the hologram, and they're seeing the glitch in the hologram.
Yes.
But somebody who's tuned into reality would never notice that stuff. Is that right?
Well, the thing is, you might start seeing different colors in the sun on everything, but right now we can't see it. We can only feel the real sun behind the hologram. But let me ask you this: like in Matrix, was there real two cats or was it one cat? It was one cat.
I don't really remember that scene that clearly, but I think I know
one and the same cat. It's just that the hologram, due to it being on the angles and the reflection, that's why it looks a little bit of a washed out color.
Yeah, I think I remember what you're talking about, but when he was viewing that, he was seeing the Matrix, but he saw a glitch in the Matrix.
Yes.
But he wasn't seeing reality.
No, glitch in the Matrix.
Right.
He was within the Matrix at the same time, if you remember, Ed.
Yeah,
so, yeah. The whole thing was the Matrix, but he was seeing a glitch in the Matrix while he was in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what Lily said is correct. The cat went by out of the scene. He looked again and saw the cat again do the same thing. So there weren't two cats on the screen at the same time. There was just one, and then the background was vacant of the cat. And then the same cat came across again. That was the glitch that he spotted in the Matrix he was living in at the time.
It was an instant replay.
Yeah, I understand that, but my point is let me get it back here.
Seeing the glitch is still being in the Matrix.
Exactly, and those of us who are wanting to see reality. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't ever see any of this stuff. And the people that do see it and report about it and get interested in it, it seems like their whole mindset is attuned to that Matrix stuff.
Yes.
So So is the glitch in the matrix for those people to try to get them to see that what they're seeing is somehow getting screwed up?
Well, it could be a couple of different reasons. It could be that, that hologram was just little, few seconds little off, and somebody caught that moment. Or it could be there on purpose to, anything that controllers do, they do it to scare the shit out of us. So we stay in the fear. So if they do that on purpose, I think that's what you're suggesting, that maybe it was done on purpose. If they do that on purpose, then it's done to instill some kind of fear. I mean, we have seen this Nibiru, be afraid Nibiru's coming. I mean, that's been, it's been kind of quiet, but it comes back up here and there, that Nibiru is coming. Well, they always knew that at some point our real sun will show up, that their hologram will fall apart. So is that then what they've been presenting us with this Nibiru that's coming from somewhere else, and it's a red planet because our sun is a lot redder, natural sun. And so who knows? That could be all done, how they plan hundreds and thousands of years ahead, okay? So this is, I'm not surprised that this is happening. For what exact reason, I don't know.
Okay, so let's just take the second sun that we've seen pictures of showing up, the one that's very bright and the one that's more reddish colored. When a person sees that and photographs it, they are tuned into the matrix, right?
Well, we're still turned on to the matrix too.
It's just a matrix reveal. I don't know that I would read into it more.
Yeah.
It's just a reveal.
Awareness of the matrix makes the perception of the matrix begin to break down. I just see it
Exactly.
as a breakdown of a particular perception.
Okay, so is the appearance of two suns it breaking down, or is that an
Breaking down for that
illusion
person.
designed to cause fear?
Well, it depends how you take it. If people are at that awareness to understand that that's the matrix, we live in the matrix, and to understand that, and when the matrix glitch out, not to freak out, but say, okay, what we're trying to do, what is matrix trying to do? Is this some kind of reprogram, or is it a reactivation of the old program, or what is going on, But the thing is, there is no two sun. One is just a hologram that's not real. It's projected hologram. It's not real hologram. There is a hologram
Okay,
that
but is it a physical? I mean, is it something actually physical, or is it attuned to the mental processes of those people who want to see it?
Look at it as the filter. There's like a filter to our real sun.
Okay, let me try to explain myself a little bit better, because I'm not really getting. I don't feel like I'm on the same wavelength or understanding exactly what you're saying, because I've never seen it. Maybe if, but my opinion up to this point has been Saturn, for them to get enough energy to Saturn for it to show up as a second sun, literally, in reality, they need to connect to the earth like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not possible right now. So the appearance of the second sun shining in the sky is literally not possible in reality. The Saturn can't get that much. They don't have the ability to generate that much to get it to be a reality. So the appearance of that sun is some type of a illusion.
Kind of like Project Bluebeam, only different.
Well,
if you follow,
that's what I'm trying to understand. Is there a physicalness to it, or is it like I understand it to be?
No. It's not physical. It's like an illusion.
Yeah.
It's like an insert in between sun and what we see. So there's somewhere an illusion there created that creates this overlay, or we see it here through the overlay that's all the way over there. But what we see is, we look at it at the sun, and first what we see is the filter, this illusion, and then the real sign is behind it, hiding.
But isn't it interesting? Remember, Lily, way back I shared Troy McLaughlin, the Saturn death cult. And that was that ancient secret society that through blood sacrifice was trying to relight Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that guy? And that almost makes you go, well, are they being successful because we're starting to see a holographic second sun? I don't know.
Maybe it's those moments that CERN actually succeeds. I don't know. Because mostly that's what CERN is trying to do, is connect the Earth's core to the Saturn, connect them energetically.
Okay, let me ask you this.
They do that through that hologram, because Earth and Sun, they exchange energy and they're interconnected to each other. So to insert Saturn, they have to trick the planetary core to express towards Saturn. So are they doing something with that, moving that hologram around? It's possible. I don't know that.
Ed, go ahead.
I think we know a lot from if you go to any natives, they will tell you the sun had changed with the matrix installation, that it used to be a lot redder. And it used to shine at us differently. It wasn't going like, like we have streams of sunshine. It was actually expanding energy. And so like the rings around the Saturn, but those around the sun, just light waves.
Mm.
So that's if you dig into some places that still have the record, or you can talk to some really, those keepers of the time that are still on the planet, the Earthlings, they have all kinds of stories about the sun, how it changed and everything. So it's not just what we're feeling, or what a lot of people know, that something is off with the way the sun looks right now. And we all, there was a time when everybody was blaming that on chemtrails, and maybe there is part of it. Maybe that hologram is created by chemtrails. I don't know. But it's definitely something's affecting that hologram.
There was a comment I made today on the Skype chat that kind of speaks to this, and I'm hoping that it might help answer Ed's question, if I'm understanding. When we talk about external reality, all of it's holographic. It's just there's an organic hologram that we ourselves are creating and projecting, which everything in that hologram would have to have an internal correlate in ourselves. Otherwise, it wouldn't be projected. It's coming from inside of us. The overlay is being projected through manipulation to first overlay a deceptive hologram over our perception. And then by doing that, it's like an attempt, if we are focused on the external, if we allow that to affect our internal, then that's a way for the whole thing to get inside of us, and it's completely backwards at that point.
So what is being manipulated?
What is being manipulated?
See, I almost...
Our perception is being manipulated because we don't know exactly how we create our perceptions. We just know that we do.
Exactly. That's my standpoint, that the manipulation and all of this is taking place within ourselves, not externally.
But we can only allow it in from the external. I mean, it's got to be through unconscious agreements that we just don't know of.
Because as soon as we accept projection as our own creation, as soon as we accept it, we've given it all our creative power to it to create the way we accepted it. Because when we accept that projected hologram and say, okay, this is what we are, so what you do is you're telling your spirit to create that. So spirit has to agree to your agreement to accepting the projection, and so it's going to create it, and so that's going to be your reality.
So,
and then the glitches are also happening here. Everything is happening here because everything we perceive is going through here. So if we see the glitches, the glitch is happening in here. I mean, that third eye technology is glitching out a lot lately. That's just what it is, because we're healing it.
I think I know what Ed's trying to get at. I think what he's saying is if when he looks at the sun, if he doesn't believe it's a matrix, he's seeing the real sun. If he believes that's his reality, that he's looking at the real sun, then wouldn't he be looking at the real sun? If that's what he believes, do you see what I mean?
Yes, he's seen real sun, and the reason I'm saying that, and I've been talking about that, go get some sun, because you and Ed believes that they're connecting with the real sun. It
Right.
starts how you feel here and what your intent. That's why I said, if your intent to connect to organic sun, you're going to go look and your spirit's going to pass the hologram and you'll reconnect to, and you'll connect to the real sun. That's why it's still so important, even though there is a hologram. But it is, if you're connecting to real sun and not the hologram, then you are connecting. Your spirit will connect to the real sun.
So that's intent.
Yes.
I have a couple things to say. I don't know how long I can stick around. If you'd let me, Lily, please stay on the line with your mic. The first is just a question, and I hope it doesn't go too far here. But if, in your opinion, if I was present when that person was photographing what they saw as two suns, if I was there with that person, what would happen? Would I see it? Would I cause it to disappear?
If it was a real glitch on that big of a scale, then yeah, you might have seen it.
Okay. So I would have had to have accepted that internally and myself.
Well, what would have happened is if somebody turned to you and said, I think there's two suns, you already would have the possibility of that in your mind. And because you have the possibility of that in your mind, because somebody tells you there is two suns, you can see it.
Okay. My second thing is a story. It's a recounting of an experience that I personally had. I can't remember the guy's name, and I don't know why right now, because I spent some time with him. Jeff, maybe you remember. I know Lily knows this guy. He's the energy manipulator guy. He runs classes and courses.
Michael Monk.
Yeah, Michael Monk. I was part of his group for a while. I went to his first retreat, spent over a week there with him. We did some really wild things. And nothing at the retreat, but at one point, a few years ago, when I was practicing some of his techniques and stuff, I was staring at the sky but I was practicing this vision thing that he has you practice, where you don't focus on anything. You just kind of allow your vision to space out and not do anything. And I was looking and it was a very cloudy day. Clouds were streaming past the sky. I'm going to undo my video here for a second if I can. But I was laying and I was looking at the sky, but I wasn't focused on the sky, right? I was somewhere in between, just practicing this, what he called your spiritual vision, this non-focusing on anything at all. But at a certain point, this incredibly detailed face appeared in the clouds. And it wasn't a cloud formation where you think, I see a dragon, or I see a seagull, or I see a camel. It was an incredibly detailed, finely detailed image of a face. And it was like an extraterrestrial type face of some kind. And it appeared, and it didn't dissipate. It flowed on by. And I didn't know what to do with that, except the explanation, of course, is that was projected from my mind into the reality that was passing by me. And it happened one more time. So it wasn't a glitch, or it wasn't just an isolated occurrence. It did happen one other time, but I don't think about that. I hardly ever remember it anymore. But in the context of what we're talking about, it came to my mind, and I wanted to mention it and see, is that some type of a explanation, or is that just something that I went through? And maybe you don't even know that. But
so Lily has a tie because Andreas knows Michael Monk.
Mm-hmm.
There I said
yes, and when Andreas was here, he taught me how to move clouds. I mean, we dissipated clouds in the sky.
Yeah, I used to do that. I never actually dissipated a whole cloud, but I put a few holes in them.
So he taught me a bit on, all of that stuff. It's your pure intent. And you just, first we just blew a little hole in it, and then just whoosh, and it disappeared. A big cloud. And it wasn't like a chemtrail cloud or anything like that. It was a real big cloud.
Right.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun too, and yeah, I want to learn how to do that more. But it was just pure intent, and that you can do it.
Okay,
I couldn't do it in the beginning until I saw him do it. Then I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
In my experience, though, that I related to you, there was no conscious intent for me to see that, but it obviously was some expression from myself.
Well, we still have that big layer of unconscious mind that works and does, makes connections that we're unaware of. And so for having that in our mind, having actually the unconscious mind, I mean, this is what creates all this unknowing, all these things that we don't know, because all of that part of our subconscious got scrambled. And so, which became our unconscious mind. And so it's one big mess. So this is the whole thing, Ed. This is what we're talking about. We understand now that we've created all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did we end up creating that? What we don't know, what we didn't want. And this is what we're talking about here. We're trying to figure out, how do we create that what we don't want? Well, we're going step by step in this and trying to figure out, okay, now we know that all of that is created through our unconscious level of mind. So we got to tackle that and figure it out, how we're unaware How can creator be unaware of what we are creating? That's where the manipulation is. So this is overall is our number one goal with all of these talks, with all of this stuff that we do, is to figure it out, how we got manipulated.
Right. And just reflecting on my experience that I related, if it came from my subconscious, and obviously an image of an extraterrestrial face would be matrix oriented. My subconscious has been infiltrated with all that, ET stuff, and it was there. And it appeared to me. And so its appearance to me was either to try to influence me or prove something to me, or I don't know, maybe it just happened. But it brings me to my other subject about the way I deal with this is my conscious awareness of my now reality. Because even if I saw that, and like if I saw that now, today, with my present state of understanding things, I would be more inclined to go to ground zero right now, my now reality, and just say, no, that's just something I'm being infiltrated here. I mean, my mind is causing this to happen, but it's not right. And I would go to my conscious experiential reality right now in order to see what might have caused that. Because I don't have access to that image that was there. But something in my now reality would show me and guide me to something relevant that would help me understand. At least that's how I operate. That's how I feel I have a connection. I'm not trying to state this as truth. I'm stating as what I understand for feedback purposes.
Sounds to me like your third eye opened and you saw into the astral.
I was seeing the clouds.
And when you were talking about the alien faces.
Yeah, maybe. But I've actually had zilch experience with third eye or any type of astral traveling or astral stuff like that. Previous. You may be right, and I just don't know it, but I'm just saying in general that was never part of my anything I tried to do or was successful at or experience.
I have something to offer.
Excellent.
We are, at our very basic nature, dreamers. That if we're in a relaxed state where we're trying to be unfocused, it's just our nature to be creative in that moment, and we'll create a context. And I'm calling that dreaming. Where this is coming from is years ago I had a sensory deprivation tank set up in my room. And for about 4 years I was floating in the sensory deprivation tank on about every other day. What happens in there is after about 15 minutes, you lose total awareness of your body. You're just a floating consciousness. You have no sensory input whatsoever. There's nothing to see, nothing to feel, nothing to taste, nothing to hear. It's just, you're just a floating consciousness. What invariably happens then is because we are such creators, we start creating our own context. And you basically flip into dream sequences. So your mind will create a complete dream, although you're not at all asleep. You're perfectly awake. But the thing is as soon as you're in the dream, you're not even aware that you're dreaming. You're just in the dream, and it's real to you because you're in the dream. And the way that I would always come out of those little dream sequences is I would be doing something in the dream, and then my body would move according to whatever I was dreaming. Like my right arm would reach for something, and I'm in the tank, and my arm would move. So then suddenly there's waves in the tank, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in the tank. And I flip out of the dream. And then I would go in and out of these dream sequences all the time. And I've also had other experiences when I'm, say, out in the woods, when I slip into what I call the second attention or the dreaming attention. It's just, there's a shift of perception. and I'll see things that are impossible to see. Like I saw a thunderbird once, which is a 6-foot tall humanoid being flying down the river valley. And I saw it, and I knew that I was in a different state of perception, but I just, as soon as it was over, I shifted back into my normal self and was like, well, that was interesting. And that to me was just an incident of dreaming awake, just shifting into a different dream mode. And, you know, and I don't necessarily try to put too much significance on it myself.
Right.
To me, it's just dreams, and they don't necessarily have to be all that significant.
That's the way I take it as well. But,
I talk about that experience that I had in the woods too, when I felt the energy moving through my whole body. I'm sure that if there was another person laying next to me, if they couldn't perceive that energy the way I did, they would not feel it, and they would not be, you know, perceiving that what I did. So it's all depends on us here, you know, what we can, there's different levels of perception. And so a lot of that is scrambled from our perception through this invasion. So it's all scrambled and we are incapable. But the more we sort of keep expressing the center, the more we can do that kind of stuff where we can, you know, sit under the tree and actually perceive the leaves connecting with each other and exchanging energy.
Well, see,
we
what
will
you're...
get to the point. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were about...
Oh, no, that's okay.
Well, you know, what you're saying, I totally agree with. And what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to say that it's absolutely the way it is, but again, these are things I have experienced. And one of the reasons I'm so convinced that all of it, or at least the majority of this hologram or manipulation or whatever is within us, is because I have often had the experience of like walking down my driveway or walking a path, and inside my state of awareness or my mental state is changed. And all of a sudden, the trees look different. The sky looks different. The like you were saying, the leaves connect with each other. It's just a total awareness changes of what it is that is in your field of consciousness. It changes, but it was because of a change in my inner state.
That's real meditation.
Yeah. But that just leads...
Most of the times it happens when you're washing the dishes or walking through a driveway or something.
But it just leads... Since that's my experience, I am just so... I believe that all of this stuff, that's how it's being accomplished within us. I don't think they have the technological power to change the world above me somehow, but maybe they do, but that just makes no sense to me. It seems much more likely that what they're doing, or they've infiltrated me and my mind. But that also gives me the total awareness that I can work with that and I can change that. And so there's that. And then the other thing I'm still, and I don't want to change the subject off of that, but I got to say it while I'm thinking it, is I'm still a little grappling with this awareness that we're learning to see and understand what we're just talking about right now. I still wonder if it's that people have done this for ages. You know, the great seers of the past, they understood this stuff. And is it just that I am now getting to the place to deal with this, and I'm redoing what they're redoing now. Or the other alternative is, I asked you this the other day, and I know I'm probably not making much sense right now, but is it because of this is a different time in history? You see what I'm trying to say? Because part of me is just saying, look, people before you in ages past have gone through this, and they've wanted to see reality, and they've understood this, and this is their path. And now I'm on this path, and I'm redoing what they're doing, and it's just time for me to start exploring this stuff. Or is it happening because the times are actually changing? Or is it a little bit of both? I don't know.
Well, I would think it's a little bit of both, but we are in a different time. And the thing is that we're right now, we understand this, that our minds are being invaded, okay? And so we still don't even know fully how, we're just learning as we go how to clear that. But at the same time, we are on a different timeline. And the reason why we are there is because that spark within us, it sparked. When the Earth's timeline activated, it sparked. We probably not going to remember. We can't go back. You can probably figure it out when exactly your spark went on. But that's, once that spark went on, it wants to create, because it's a creative spark. So at the same time, we are on this different timeline because we right now, we haven't created that what we want. So right now, to balance the universe, you know, this is why it cannot just end and we just do something else. We need to learn to heal ourselves or let go the interference. But at the same time, like, you know, Jeff likes to use HK a lot. Same time, you don't just leave that timeline without replacing it with something that which you won't create. So this is just, if you're going to use HK, it's just one big HK session. We have to create that what we want. So this is why Earth's timeline is for us to create the timeline that we want, in harmony with the planet and in harmony with our collective and all the other collectives that are here on the planet. So that's why Earth's timeline is here, because we're going to create it as we go, because we have to replace it. We can't just say, oh, we had enough of Matrix. Well, what are we supposed to do as creators? We're supposed to create. So we need to create. This is why I talk a lot about this. We need to create that what we want. And I know it's hard because there's so much pressure on you and interference and all of that stuff that's still here. But we can't just sort of think that once we heal the matrix, that what do we do? Is our job done? No, we have to learn how to create.
Yeah, I don't see an end to it, but okay. If
you know what, and I understand that it's hard to see changes, but I honestly I was so surprised just last week. I was so surprised because I saw something that I didn't think I would ever see. You know, I knew that the time would come that maybe we can even talk about this, but we haven't really. And so I'm going to, I guess, talk about this right now with you guys. Is that the time? Go ahead, Ed.
Well, can you remember what you're about to say? I don't want you to forget it.
Okay, no.
I just wanted to interject, though, that it's not that I don't see changes. And I'm not really all that concerned about if it's one or the other. because if it is the times changing, well, the world's going to change and it'll be great. If it's not, and it's just me, my time, still, my world is going to change.
Exactly.
So I'm not really all that concerned about it. And if what you say is true, and it's happening right now, and we're creating it as we go, I am doubly convinced that we need to pay attention to ourselves and not all this shit that's going on around us.
Yep.
We have to create from within and not just get all this clusterfuck stuff that's going on everywhere. That should not be incorporated into how we want what we want to create. Because all of all of that just offers suggestions, honestly, what we don't want. And we have to totally tune out of that by tuning in to ourselves.
Yes, the problem is that is as you go to breaking down your own matrix system, you're going to work through layers that are connected to the collective levels and all of that stuff. And I think we've talked a little bit about it last time, to where when you doing your certain things, there is a collective problems that will come on in your personal energy field that will show up, and you have to deal with that to sort of break it down for yourself. And a lot of times, because we are so trained to constantly look for the answers to that outside of ourselves, and soon as it has something to do with more collective level or the group situation, we tend to fall back into that and look for answers somewhere there or there or there, And so what we do is we step out of our internal self and we try to see, and a lot of times we just get ourselves in more traps by doing that.
I see. Yes. Right.
But at the same time, that's something that, if it has something to do with your personal level healing, you still need to heal that. And this is where I see a lot of sort of problems happening when we start to learn about what's true reality here. And then you're learning about the sun, that it's darker or whatever. And then people say, well, you sound just like Illuminati, and they're all going in over there and they're worshiping the sun. And so you're a sun worshiper or something like that. So we always constantly have to worry about what people say, because they have such an, and it was all done with intent. Everything what this control groups did is they took the secret knowledge, made it secret by scrambling our subconsciousness, and then took that, copied it, twisted it, our secret knowledge, and then projected it at us in twisted way. I mean, I've talked about this in, about symbols and all of that stuff, but we have to understand that they can only copy stuff and manipulate that. But underneath there is a real symbol, right? There is a real feeling. Everything underneath all of that manipulation, and what secret societies do right now, they stole it all from us. That was our knowledge. It was all stolen from us. So all of that belonged to us. So we hold those secrets. We know those secrets on how to create. They just managed to steal it from us. But when you start going into these subjects, people go, oh, you're talking about, secret knowledge. You're talking about black sun or something like that. Well, all of that, and especially things like that, when they do this specifically to make certain knowledge very secret, and then send their agents out there into societies telling them, oh, Illuminati have all this secret knowledge and they're sun worshippers and all of that stuff. So we would reject that, and so we would reject our own sun, so we would reject all of our knowledge that is ours to begin with. So all of that they've stole from us and twisted it, underneath all of that teaching is the real creative power. And it's ours. It belongs to humanity. It belongs to the human beings that are the creators of the reality here on the planet. The planet gives us that power. And so all of that knowledge, it was taken from us. And so, but when you start talking about this, and like we started talking about the sun, it will give some people fear. They'll say, well, they're getting into some, secret society knowledge and all of that stuff. But it was never theirs to begin with. It was always ours. So yeah, we have to sort of now dig through all this manipulation to put it back to put our own selves as a creators back together. So yeah, we're gonna run into those things that that's gonna come up that you might need to look into. All of the, sun calls and all of that stuff, and figure it out where the manipulations are and where the real truth is. Because all of it is based on truth. Because they can only copy, they cannot create a lie. They can twist the truth into lies. But they cannot create a total lie. That's why in all manipulations and all those disinfo agents, they all will have some truth in it, because their lies are always our truth that is manipulated and twisted and torn into pieces and all of that stuff. But it's our truth that they do that to.
It seems to me that if we're going to deal with this, if I'm going to deal with this, I have to not try to use my mental processes to not deal with things that are coming into my, how do I say this? If I'm going to deal with this, I need to relate to my experience of reality as much as possible. If I rely too much on stuff that's in my head, I'm just going to go in circles, and I'm going to, the Groundhog Day thing, and it's not going to, because that's been infiltrated. And those mental images and those mental memories will just serve to deceive me over and over again. And so I just cannot rely on that. And I have to get away from that by consciously trying to experience my now reality. I know I'm repeating myself over and over. I don't have any other words to say it.
I understand what you're saying, Ed, because I feel a lot of times the same way. That's why when I want to say something, I always say I want to have many confirmations that what I'm saying is and what I'm feeling is all in harmony with my body, with my spirit, with every cell of my body, because I can't afford to make mistakes here. But because of that mental loop, and especially when you're dealing with things that have been hijacked, that are sort of the building blocks of us as a creators, and when those things we're dealing with and you feeling certain information that has to do, let's say, with the sun, that our real sun actually behind the hologram, when you start talking about that, there's a lot of that mental knowledge about all of that that's all of that information that's out there, that's sort of secret and hidden and this and that, and yet we had some access to it. All of that information start going the Groundhog Day in your head immediately. That's why it's like when that happens, what I do for myself, I just stop. I just stop thinking about that subject. I just stop. And then it could be 10 minutes later, it could be 1 hour later, it could be 1 week later. When that feeling and that thought comes back again, then I can start fresh. As soon as I notice again that looping thing going on in the mind, gotta stop. You gotta stop, because your mind wants to drag you into that rabbit hole of the external, of all the manipulations and all of that stuff, because you're gonna be circling around, around, and around. So you just stop when that happens.
Right.
Because that information that's out there, manipulated, all that stuff, is gonna, that unconscious mind is gonna spit out, that at you. Because what is it doing when you're thinking about something? It's looking for those pieces of information in your unconscious mind. So it will do that, and it will start throwing at you all these ideas and all these things that it has stored about this specific subject. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think what Ed is this what you're talking about? That by refusing to let this stuff, external mental stuff, enter into your life, that you'll eventually find the answer anyway, because as you connect more with your spirit and the layers get peeled off, you'll enter a sense of knowing from your own spirit that you don't have to go down the rabbit hole. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know, Betsy. I think so. But it's what I've recently become impressed with is the fact that I can't really keep it out of my head. It's there. But it's where I choose to place my attention.
If I could interject a bit,
Yeah.
this comes back to one of the first things that Lily started talking about, is we have to let go of everything we believe. So all this crap that comes into our consciousness, we can make the choice to reject it or believe it. So by avoiding all this extraneous garbage, we're not exposed to it, and we're not going to even be subjected with the idea of accepting it or believing it.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah, belief is a creative force.
Exactly.
And that's been hijacked too, because the real belief is believe in yourself.
Right.
Believe in your own spirit. Believe in that fact that your thoughts are creative thoughts. That they're not just garbage. Like we believe that, and all of that. The thing is that I'm noticing with all the manipulation and how this control system enslaves our minds, enslaves our hearts and everything, they take what is the sacred for a human being, and they take that, twist that, and turn it into something that is completely opposite of what we want to do. But then we still use those words because those are concepts that are true to us. So like believing is believing in yourself. But what they've created, all these belief systems. And so we get so confused. This is how confusing all the system is to us, because it takes our creative, not just power, process, and it controls it. And so how does it trick us into being okay with it? Because the concepts or the words are used the same, that used to mean completely different things to us. And so take word believe. And so now that's what I said, because that concept of belief has been so tainted that all it means is a projected reality, that you accept projected reality. And once you accept it, you created a belief system. But the actual real meaning of belief is just be alive, meaning be creator, be life, create living light. That's what belief means to me. But because it's so tainted, we have to come up with all these different words and attach different meaning to them so we can somehow communicate the truth. So we have to go around and try to figure out all these different words because all the real words have been hijacked.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm not all that concerned about it, except in a situation where I'm trying to communicate like with you guys. But I know that the communication can come on other levels besides words, you know. And if it's important, there'll be a way. It doesn't matter what words you use. the energy behind them will somehow communicate. But I understand what you're saying. But I wanted to reiterate, I was trying to make a point that about when Betsy talked about we don't pay attention to all the mental stuff. What I see is that you can't not do something. In other words, you can't just be seeing all this stuff and then say, no, I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to pay attention to that. It's ineffective. It just does not work. The only way to really not be paying attention to all that stuff that's in your head and in your mind as it comes up in services is to focus your awareness on a whole nother place, on your internal reality, or or whatever you want to call it. And maybe for each of us that's going to be different. But when you are totally focused on yourself and not all that external reality, the external reality can just flow by and you perceive it totally differently, and it doesn't draw your attention into it. Even when you're trying not to pay attention to something, if you're just an empty thing there, it's going to get you somehow, unless you will consciously be trying to be aware of your real self or whatever you want to call it. All those external things, they're going to somehow get lodged in there again.
So Lily, in an HK view, if Ed was sitting down for an HK session and describing his effect, I kind of read in, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, you're presenting the effect of your life right now as you are concerned, focused, of putting your attention to not being tricked or consumed by the matrix reality?
Well, that's what I'm trying to communicate. No, I'm trying to get away from being focused on not doing something and be so totally consumed with actually experiencing reality the point I'm trying to make is you can't not do something. I'm not trying to not experience the matrix. I'm trying to experience reality. You see the difference there? You can't not do something. I don't want to smell that poop. I don't want to smell that poop. You can say that over and over, but you're still going to smell it. But all of a sudden, you become so totally engrossed in something else, like the flower over there. All of a sudden, you don't smell the poop anymore. That's how you don't experience it anymore.
You smell the poop just the same, but it doesn't smell the same. It's not repulsive anymore.
You become an observer of the smell of the poop, you don't react to it.
Exactly.
Doesn't that all go back to what your perception is, what you perceive?
Yes, Justin, it is like, what you choose to see and how you choose to perceive and how aware you are of the reality. Then we talk about it, we got to learn from 0 point. And that's, I think, what you had eventually saying is that from 0 point, when you stay there all the time, you don't, you see things for what they are, and you are not in reaction due to that because you know what it is. But sometimes we can get a little lost, and we try to pop that zit in the mirror, and we try it really hard, and it doesn't work, and we go, shit, I can't pop the zit, and we think that we are not doing something wrong. But sometimes we just need to look at the situation from a different perspective, because a lot of times, I speak for myself, I've got myself a lot of times thinking that I'm actually popping the zit on my face, but it actually was trying to do it in the mirror. So, and this is what 0 points gives you, is that when you know that where everything lies, where the problem is, it is always within you. So whatever's out there projecting at you, and even if you're going to say, well, it's outside world is trying to trick me so hard over here, something over here is pulling me in so hard, but it's because you're still paying attention to that. And to you, that looks very important. Like we talk about this, and I don't know how to say this in a nicer way, but like the matrix glitch that some people pay too much attention to, like the songs or the little things or that, and that becomes so big in their external that it pulls them in, and then they're completely consumed by that specific subject, and they're not at 0 point anymore. So because they're so much consumed by that, because whatever it was from outside, it created that big flash, and here, and it consumes people, and they keep trying to pull that, to pop the zit in the mirror. They're trying to find that problem over there and figure it out what it is, but it's never going to be an ending rabbit hole, because it never ends. Because when you dig into the computer program, it's going to keep going and going and going and going. And so that's what I'm saying. There's things that are there, but it depends on your perception. And you're here, and if you in 0 point, you look at that and say, oh yeah, the freaking matrix is glitching big time. But then you step out and you say, okay, because you don't want to be consumed by that, especially things that are just flashy, that have very little substance to them. They're meant to catch you. I see so much of this matrix system using people's best intentions. It's using it without feeling sorry for them or anybody else that they affect. I mean, I see so much, especially right now in alternative media, how people are being used and abused by matrix system. They're so used and abused, and they have no idea, because they've been so pulled into whatever that was, whatever subject, that it consumes them. And they're completely become blind to their own reality, to themselves, and to everything else.
Exactly. And I wanted to take this a step further then. And there are some people, or there's this concept or this illusion that people have that they can somehow put all of this external stuff together. If they look at it enough, if they get enough knowledge, and they spend enough time and find out the key, the proper secret, somehow they're going to be able to put it all together and understand it. And I think that's a big lie, because I've had the experience of connecting with spirit or earth or whatever you call it, just one time was particularly intense. And when that happened, I had a total understanding of a myriad of different things that were going on. I didn't have to recall them, but because of my focus and connection, there was just a clear understanding of so many things that were going. I didn't put it together mentally by getting enough knowledge. I just all of a sudden began to see it from a different perspective, like what you're talking about. And that's why I'm becoming more and more withdrawn from trying to put all this stuff together, not trying to understand it, because I know all it takes is a bit of perception in another direction.
I know what you're talking about, Ed, because, once I had a couple of experiences, I wasn't on the internet for 2 years. I kept going back trying to get the same feelings and get the same, and I kept going and going, and I didn't give a shit about anything. I was like in awe at how much there was here.
Yeah.
So
and
I understand that. I do understand what you're saying.
I'm not really saying get away from the internet or something. I'm just trying to make a point about our focus.
One thing that I wanted to say is whatever does infiltrate our minds and gets our attention, honestly, even though we'd rather it didn't, whatever does get into our brain and sticks there, we have to just deal with it creatively. We have to, whatever that means to the individual, you have to deal with that, whatever's sticking in your brain. And my method is to write a story about it. And by doing that, I get in a completely different relationship with whatever is rattling around in my head. I arrange it in a way that makes sense to me, and it doesn't have to, I don't have to figure out that's the way that it is for anybody else but just me, and I create a story out of it. You can have a conversation like we're having right now. This is a creative way of dealing with the things that are rattling around in our collective heads, and we're trying to come up with new insights. And so this too is a creative process, and is exactly what I'm talking about. So whatever does infiltrate our heads and honestly gets our attention, we just have to find a way to deal with it creatively and not in any way that we have before.
Yeah, just not to fall into the old ways of being and always just be in the center, whatever it is, And
in particular, don't fear it.
Oh, the fear is the biggest one. And it's, it's going to sound so new agey, but that being used and abused, that tactic, fear. And I seen this, and this is something that I was going to talk about. Has anybody said anything, wanted to add anything to Ed's points? No?
Good.
Okay. So this is my interesting thing that I'm watching, sort of, and trying to put together in my head is eventually it's sort of, I knew that, there were contracts and all of that stuff that were made for the Matrix to begin with on this planet, and then that contract has ended, okay? And everything that's in overlay reality has the right to be here through contracts or agreements of entrapment. Okay, because that's what contracts are. It's agreements of entrapment. So through the agreements of entrapment, there is many different layers, of course, and all of that stuff. So I've been just sort of watching and trying to work it out from the planetary perspective. Okay, like all of a sudden I wanted to know what planet is doing and how is she reclaiming herself back, and getting rid of all these agreements of entrapment, because the planet has been in a lot of entrapment too. And so one interesting thing that I've been watching in the last couple of months is what is happening with the fact that the contract for the land has expired for quite a few places. For US, the contract to the land here is expired. They're trying to reinstall this contract with some natives and all of that stuff. And I think, some people are been talking about that in alternative media. And then I'm watching, how are they trying to keep this land and not give it back to the natives? Because this land doesn't belong to America, to Americans. I mean, it belongs to natives. There was a contract, and now they have to give it back, but they don't want to give it back. So this is what's happening. And the natives were saying that there's going to be time when the time comes, and the Kachinas and all of the stuff, it's all plays into this big plan to where the corporations that are countries have to give back their land that they stole. And this is part of why there's all these new names for the countries now and new contracts for the countries. They've prepared that, but I don't know if they're going to be installed or not. But this is the other thing, what I see in America, what they're trying to do, how to recontract this land, is, first of all, they've poisoned all the land, okay? Because the land holds the genetic codes of those people that own it, because every person, every human being born on the planet has a right to a piece of land, naturally. That's a natural law. So what they're trying to do, and then when the story came up that in America they sold more guns during the Black Friday than ever before, and the reverse psychology campaign on that was that Obama wants to take your guns, right? So people bought the guns, and they said, well, we have the guns, Obama's not going to take them. Well, Obama doesn't want to take your guns. Obama wants to buy for all Americans to have a lot of guns, in case they don't recontract this land. If they don't recontract the land, then what they're going to do is they're going to turn Americans on the natives and Mexicans, because Mexicans are the natives of a lot of part of America. So this whole twisted situation is so twisted, and the moves are so twisted. And the thing is, the spiritual meaning of this poisoning our land, it's not just to poison our food. There's a much deeper connection that we as human beings create with the Mother Nature. And so when we are on this land and it's poison, meaning it's interfered with, this is why all of that black soil in America have been poisoned with Monsanto or whatever, and all of that stuff, is to create that disconnect. And I mean, so if natives ever get this land back, they won't have a connection to it anymore. This is what I see is happening in Ukraine, is because the people there are natives And right now, America came in and they're poisoning that land. And then trying to, all this war and everything is to displace people from their land and recontract some of that land that belongs to natives. I'm not saying that Americans are going to be kicked out by natives, but do we like it or we don't like it, the land here, the contract is over. And so all of this that's happening here in America, it has a lot to do that with trying to recontract the land, because this is a contract with the planet, and the planet will not allow it. So what they try to do is steal. I mean, they destroy anybody who is trying to bring that natural law back. Because we talked about, and we said that we're going to talk about, it has to do with the natural law. Because this is what happens with the invasion of our mind, our unconscious mind, creation of the unconscious mind, or scrambling of our part of our subconscious, creating the unconscious mind. What that did is, I lost my thought. Shit. What was I saying before that?
I was waiting for you to get to your point. I don't know.
So completely got wiped.
I did have one thought I'd like to interject here, though. If they need to recontract the land, if I was a Native American, I wouldn't want to contract with those same people who screwed me the first time. And so this whole new positive timeline, new positive agenda, where they're not dealing with the same old people who screwed them, but there's a whole new people that they can somehow be convinced that, oh, these people are trustworthy and these people have the answers, then maybe they can recontract through that method.
Yes. Why do you think they pay off a lot of money to a lot of Native groups here? And they bought out some of the Native leaders, paid them a lot of money, and now those Native leaders are going with the government and putting the government officials in the Native blankets and all of that stuff. Those are sellouts. Those are the ones that sold their soul to the Matrix. Mm-hmm. Those are not a good people that do that, because they know the law of nature. Because this is what I was trying to say is that there is the cosmic mind, or the universal mind, or the source mind, okay, that's the universal lore or universal law, okay? That's one set of laws and how that works, how the light universe works. There is a certain set of laws. Then what we have on the planet, that universal law or source law expresses through the planetary core. And this is what you get as an expressed universal law, expresses through the planet as the law of nature, which is the nature of this reality on the planet, and that goes through the core of the planet and it expresses out. What had happened is the infiltration happened on that level. This is why a lot of times we get questions like that. How can they break universal law and invade us? Well, they didn't break universal law. They broke the law of nature. This is where you enter black magicians, because what they do is they learn how to manipulate law of nature. Okay? And they will tell you, there's a lot of people that will say, you know, the black magicians will never, ever break the universal law, but they know how to manipulate the law of nature.
Can I ask a question right here,
The
Lily?
natural law. Go ahead.
I just right there on that subject, when they manipulate the laws of nature and they use what you're calling their black magic stuff, is that so that they can create a trauma for us so that we
Yes.
accept it? Am I
Yes.
saying
And
that
what
right?
happens is, and then they've created through that unconscious mind, the law of karma. The law of karma, which is based on the law of nature. Okay. But what they happen is they've inserted that black magic into it. And so what happened is we create our karma from that manipulated point. So we had a spell put on us by black magic. And so what happened is we created karma. Because there is a universal karma. But what happened here is there is a karmic law that they've created that is kind of mirroring the universal law. But it's twisted, because what happens is, because the reason why that karma is created the way it is through black magic here is because then they actually don't create their own karma. This is why they can do all this kinds of shit to us through black magic. And then because we create that, and so the law of karma, then we have to relive that which we created unconsciously, because we've accepted that reality. Our unconscious mind is black magic. This is the spell on humanity. And so this is how they avoid reliving what they've done to us. Is not by manipulating universal law, but manipulating the law of nature here, the natural law. So what they do is, when they contract the land, they came here, killed all the people, and took the land. Right?
Right.
And then created a corporation. I'm a real estate broker. Every piece of land or every house I ever sold, it's telling you that it's incorporated land. So it doesn't belong to you. You never own the land, because America is a corporation. So it's like, your house that you buy in America, it's like your cube at work. That's what it is. You're there while, it's never really yours. It's not yours. So there's very little unincorporated land that's left, and all the natives have unincorporated land, which is very little of it in America. But right now, they've destroyed all the documents that this land in America, this was also supposed to be the New Jerusalem, too. Have you guys known that? Which means a number one for AI control country. And that's why we've been slaughtered here with all these things that are meant to transhumanize us. Because this is where it's supposed to begin. This is the New Jerusalem for the AI consciousness. So it's supposed to begin in America. This is what was going on in Texas in August. Was trying to install this system here. But anyway, I'm off topic. But what I'm saying is, they get so tricky. So they want Americans to have the guns. So, and then tell us, Trump's already telling us that, get ready to start killing some Mexicans. I mean, that he's literally saying that. I mean, they're not even hiding their stuff anymore. They're not hiding their plans. So we're so twisted up. And I see all these pieces coming together, and they're so clear that the reason they do so many things is because they know how we're going to react. And they built all of that. So the only way out of this, if we ever want to succeed, the only way out is not to give them reaction that they expect.
Yeah, that was going to be the point that, in a way, I was going to try to make here, is that all of this stuff that they're trying to do and that you've been revealing to us here, is it really that important? Because where's the real power?
The reason why I think we need to talk about this is because people are still being used to create something that we don't want to create.
Yeah.
And the trick's getting more and more difficult and more trickier. I mean, and I don't have to say this to you guys, but I'm sure you see this too. There's alternative media have turned into this propaganda for this consciousness takeover. Yeah. And it's gone so in our face that it's not even funny. And what they're doing it with, there's so much talk about grounding, creating new reality, and all of that stuff, when all of that, most of in alternative media, have been hijacked. They haven't cleared their time track, and they have access. And all of those entities, let's not say entities, okay, let's talk about programs and all of that stuff, all of the belief systems, they're still there. Nobody cleared them out, and they're still there. They're still being used and abused by this consciousness. And a lot of these people start talking about things that we talk about. Why do you think that is? Because what we talk about is important. Because it's true reveal, and they have to scramble and create new programs. Okay, this is why I laugh a lot and I point out to you guys and I say, look at this. Look at Cindy. She's talking about Earth's timeline now. What the heck? You were just attacking me 3 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden you're talking like me right now. But you got to understand what it is, because what she's talking about, and especially people in alternative media that talk a lot about America and what needs to happen in America, but they're all hiding this fact that America as a corporation had his contract expired with the land. Nobody wants to talk about that. Because why? Because they are bought out and sold their souls. So people like that, they'll talk about Earth's timeline, but they'll not talk about the real truth. They will not get to the bottom of things. And so they'll come up, especially people like Cindy or whatever her name is, and many other people like that. They'll talk about, this financial system or that financial system or this or that, when in fact they're manipulated to keep people away from the real truth, what is happening. If we know what is happening, that we can resolve the fear of what is coming, because they're going to plant a lot of fear about that into us. They already done it. They're already doing it. And this is what I don't know how to tackle, is the fact that all these people in alternative media, not all, but a lot of people in alternative media don't understand what they're doing. They do a lot more damage to people because they keep on with the program. They update the words, but they keep on with the program, and they're not doing any good to people. So who is there to do this? Who is there to speak up and say we need to figure this out, and we cannot have fear about it, but we got to look at this. If we want to change, we got to be open to all. If we want our contracts to be void, then let's void all of the contracts.
Okay.
And let's go back to the natural law. But all these people will pull you away from it.
I want to give you my thought here, if I can. Remember the other day when we were talking about, I think it was your dad, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and about having discussions about being afraid of this and that and the other and stuff like that, but just showing him that you cared and stuff enabled him to get out of that somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm likening this process to that. See, when you showed him you cared, that was so much more powerful than all of this fear that was based on illusion. One simple, organic, true connection between you and him resolved all of this stuff, or started to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the comment that that's what he's going to remember. When rubber hits the road, that's what's going to be remembered. All this other stuff's just going to fade away because there's no true power in it. Okay? All of this deception that's being thrown around in our world, and all of this, the effects that it's having on people, and all of this stuff, it's not truly powerful. If there truly is an Earth timeline developing here, what's important is our organic experience of it, and the way that we relay that, and the connection we have to it, and how we are able to convey that connection to others. Because that one true connection being shared, what I see is it can totally decimate all of this other shit that has no true power. It only has power because of what we give to it.
That's a good point, Ed. I understand that. But this is the thing. On Earth's timeline, we got to realize that if we can't, like we talk about that, we can give it limits too. We can say, oh, if we're on Earth's timeline, then it's supposed to be this and this and this, and there is no way I can handle anything being uncomfortable or having no electricity for one day or whatever, And so every one of us that we say, okay, we're on Earth's timeline, are we then given the limitations to that creation by trying to figure out how exactly it's going to be? What I'm trying to say is that if we even going to try to figure it out how we should be or what should happen on Earth's timeline, that we got to understand that being on Earth's timeline means that we got to go back to the law of nature, to the natural law, that every human being has a right to be on this planet, and all those other natural laws that a lot of groups on the planet has still hold the knowledge of how to be. So if you on Earth's timeline and you're talking about dissolving the matrix, but there is no way you want give land back to its original owners, well, you have a problem there, right?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about saying something. I'm talking about experiencing something. You can say you're on Earth timeline and then still have all these mental problems and stuff like that and deal with that. But that's not the power. The power is when you experience your connection, even in one small way, then and you're able to communicate that. That's what undoes all this stuff, in my opinion.
Yes, and this is why.
When you experience it, you find that all of a sudden you're supported.
Yes. And you understand, once you experience, you start to understand that you cannot put limitations on that you got to be open and trust yourself,
right?
That it's going to work out for you, because what is happening with all of that, it is meant, and the reason why I talked about what is planned here in America is because that is planned with a lot of fear power that's going to come down on people. That's going to be a very big push for fear. And then for those of us that are on Earth's timeline, once we learn that and once you experience that, then you understand your power as a human being. And none of that will scare you, and you will see it for what it is, as a game to recontract whatever it is back into the matrix system. That there's just matrix systems trying to recontract itself or rewrite itself into our reality, and so that's why we talk so much about experiencing that, because then once we experience that, all of that fear that's coming down the line for so many people. And what I'm saying is that 99% people in alternative media, if they hear that that's what's coming, they're going to shit their pants. So we have to understand that if we choose the path of being true to our human self, connected to the planet, we got to understand the oneness of humanity, the equality. Because if we don't, and we're just going to use, like a lot of people are using Earth's timeline as a way to get their way and to propagate their old same shit and reinstall the matrix by manipulating the concept of this, there's going to be a lot of people like that.
That's the Earthling program.
That's the Earthling program, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger because the time is so short.
And that's why it's so important to realize the difference between mental acceptance, mental information, mental understanding, and experience.
Exactly. And that's why, if people have the experiences, if they have a little bit of something, forget about internet. Go reconnect. Go try to recreate the same experience and keep working and working and working. I know we sound like a broken record talking about this, but that's your strength. That's our strength, and our power is the experience.
And just a little bit of it is so much more powerful than all the mental illusion.
And then you truly understand what it is to be an equal human being, and you understand, and that natural law will be part of your knowing. We won't have to learn about what natural law. We'll just know it.
Right.
We'll just know it. Yes.
I'm wondering, in my own heart, in my own being, and I think probably everybody here feels the same way, the concept of shooting another human being is totally foreign. I mean, the whole concept of this being a division and being against other people is so not what we are, that it's like even paying attention to this is somehow taking away from our own power. It's like that doesn't even compute in my brain how we could even buy into that. guns and killing and hating the Mexicans and the Syrian refugees and stuff. It's like, to me, it's like, even if I'm paying attention to that, it's totally wrong for me. I don't know why. It's like, I don't even want to pay attention to that stuff.
Because you're an earthling and it's not in your field. It's not in your concept because, like I said, the natural law, we just know. We know what karma, real karma is. So when you know that, when you consciously know that, but this is the thing, how many people are like you, Justin, in the world? Because if everybody was like you, we wouldn't have wars today. And this is what we're trying to get there. But it's not, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm all for not having any of that at all. But I'm saying
how do we change it other than being our most authentic self?
You tap into your creation power.
Yes, you
for
stay
yourself.
in the center and not have fear about it. And you say, okay, this is what, and let's say, you talk with somebody who might have fear about that, and you express that fearless energy from you to them. And when you're talking to another person, or when we're here, we're all exchange energy. And what we are, it's like, it's the same way as we are with animals. If you want an animal not to be afraid, then you got to be unafraid so they can't feel that fear. My dog, every time I say, oh, he's going to bark at another dog, he always barks, because from my mind, it's a command to him to bark, because I go, he's going to bark. And he's like, I have to bark. Same thing with people. If you express the fear, people going to be in fear. But if you express fearlessness of whatever situation, what's happening in America with guns? Well, they're preparing just in case whatever shit happens, but that's not going to happen, because we're going to express fearlessness, and that goes into collective. And so it sort of, because that's all magic. So how magic becomes non-magic is by revealing it. So when you reveal what the magic tricks are, they're not so magic anymore, right? It's just a plan. That's all it is. Once you take the magic out of it. So, I mean, what we can do, we always express that fearless state of being, because we can't afford to be in fear ourselves. So that's why, in this kind of talks, we talk about that. And that's why I say, okay, they might do this, or they might do that, or they might do that. It's not to scare you, but to say, well, that's their plan, but we have to express the fearless feeling about it.
I just want to point out that, again, you can't try to not be afraid. Either you are or you aren't. I mean, so if something causes you to be in fear, you can't just shut it off and tighten yourself up and say, no, I'm not afraid. It doesn't work like that. You have to deal with it so you aren't afraid. And you do that by realizing that you are greater than it. Whatever it takes for you to realize how either it can affect you or it doesn't, something, but you have to go through it somehow and deal with it.
And there is a difference between stating something to create fear and then stating something to take the fear of unknown out of the situation. When you know something is happening and you state that, because we should only state that or talk about that information being out of fear. So it's just to help other people release that fear of unknown within themselves. This is why we say that, you know,
And that's powerful.
And it is because you sort of, from every pore of your being, it comes that fearlessness. It infects other people. Well, in fact, maybe not a good word, but it helps people to tune in into that. You know, we see this with animals. We see them, they react to people that are in fear. You know, we have all the senses. We have our whole body intelligence. Human beings, even though being unaware of it on a mental level, we still have that. You know, so it's like with my animals. I can lay in the bed and all four of them will come and be right next to me. It's not because they, you know, it's because they like my energy. They like my energy. And when I'm not feeling so good, they may not come. You know, it's just, and so is other people. If you exude this energy of love, enjoy about living, everyday things, everything is so incredibly beautiful because you value your every little experience. I even love washing dishes right now because I get so inside so much, and I used to hate washing dishes.
Can I say that I think that this is also how we communicate our intent to spirit?
Yes.
It doesn't happen on a mental level. It happens on this level, for instance, like we're talking about. You either are afraid or you aren't. When you aren't afraid, it's powerful. And that's the communication. And that's how you express to spirit. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
True communication doesn't take place on the mental level with words and ideas and stuff like that. It happens on the intention level. Mm-hmm. And that's what has to become clear for us to make that connection and to create.
I'd like to make a little distinction.
Okay.
And with the mental level, one thing that you can always tell when it's a mental level thing is what does it lead to. The mental level always leads to something that's already prefabbed. It's a reality that's already constructed for you. Your input isn't required. It's not needed. That's what the mental always leads to. The other, as you were calling it, the path of intent or creativity, is always an open slate. It requires you to participate. And I just wanted to point that out, that if you're not too sure what you're dealing with, whether it's mental or you're on the Earth timeline or an Earthling program, that would be the way. What is it leading towards? Your greater participation, or is it leading more towards, here's a wonderful place for you to step into? That's it.
Awesome.
So I wanted to make that example because what is happening, I've seen a lot of, and the reason why I picked that, the Black Friday and all that, maybe that was not a good example of this things that are sort of planned underneath all of this. Because a lot of people in alternative media thought, oh, wow, we beat the government. They told us, that we don't need guns, and we bought a whole bunch of guns. And it's like, well, you did exactly what you were told to do. This is what we need to start bringing to people's attention, is that even though they might think that they did something on their own, they were directed, and they did exactly as they were directed to do. And a lot of things are done like that in all different levels. People that talk about portals, You know, they've talked about portals, but because they always count on that, their lies can only work if people don't know the real truth.
Right.
Then once we connected the portals, that they're all connected to CERN, and then information start coming out about CERN, what did we see? The switch of the program to something else, into something else. Okay? And that program switches, and their lies and their programs can only work when there is still a magic aspect, meaning that we don't know the real truth about that part. But once we do know that truth, it's a lot more difficult for them to pull that veil over our head, because now they need to put that veil all of our body, because we've got our body intelligence back. And so this is what I'm saying. But with other people, we can see the progression of the lie, that as humanity finds out real truth, then the next level, comes the next level of lies. And then we come down up there and say, okay, CERN is the portal opener. Oh, well, it's not a portal, it's event now, or whatever. The other thing that they're going to come up with. And then, you connect that, event's going to happen. Oh, it's on the same day as CERN is opening the portal. Oh, event is connected to the CERN as well. Oh, now what it is, whatever they're going to come up with, the new name or whatever. But all of that, because remember I said they're in reaction to the action of the planet. So their lies keep changing according to how much truth humanity finds out. So how can you glitch that process of keep remaking and updating those programs? What you do is you just tell the truth, what you know from your spirit. And people are going to ridicule us for saying this, But if you put that out there, the people cannot unhear it. And so that's why this will gonna sort of make them try to work harder on their lies and manipulations. And the harder they work, the more mistakes they're gonna make. And the more truth is gonna be revealed. It's just like with false flag events, When people got onto it, they have to work a lot harder to make that believable again, And still, with all that supposed power, they still mess up. And people right away go, oh, look at that, and look at that. All of it means false flag. So this is just kind of similar thing. When we understand and we get the knowing, okay, well, so this is, I guess, what I took a leap and I said, well, if we, on Earth's timeline, we eventually will have to go back to the natural law. What they call it a natural law here is all messed up too. It's not real natural law. So I guess that's what I'm saying, that we sort of can understand, because if we're going to go for equality, because on Earth's timeline, it's equality. We can't, it's just everything has to change. But it's got to change with us, with our perception, and we have to understand that.
Lily, I have a question.
Change is coming. Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you still of the opinion, feeling that for round figures, there's 7 billion souls walking the earth, maybe less because we haven't got into that part of it, but bodies and a whole hell of a lot of souls. Are you still of the opinion that they're all going to go on Earth timeline, or is there something else floating around?
No, okay. This brings us into the artificial souls, shallow souls, and human souls.
Thank you.
Okay. So my understanding now that 1/3 of the population has an artificial souls. meaning it's fully inorganic consciousness. There's just, the body is, for the artificial souls, they might have a clone body. They can go, artificial souls can go into clone bodies and all of that stuff, or they can, or like walk-ins, walk in, and they tell you that if you go and read some of people testimonies about walk-in process, this is the soul exchange. So the human soul completely gives up the body, and the artificial soul can possess the body fully. So the artificial soul, so all like the walk-in process that a lot of people talked about, that's an artificial soul taking over. And so that person is, their soul is no longer is in the body. And I'll tell you how it is. They make an agreement to come out and be stuck in astral level in some kind of beautiful loop with rainbows and and all of that stuff, and their soul is then in this cartoonish world. So and then basically that's what also I called it a fully harvested soul. Is the fully harvested soul then vacates the vehicle, and then artificial soul, which could be any of the beings of any of that don't have their genetic code within the core of the planet, and they can enter.
Does that mean that the 3% Earth, how the heck did you used to say that? 3% connection, 97% astral, 3% Earth, or I think that's the way you said it.
Yes.
Is that 3% missing from them? Are you saying?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's missing.
Okay, thank you.
That was there because the 3% are the blueprint is different. There cannot be possessed.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then that 97%, that through their genetics they can be possessed. That 97%, they can be possessed by an artificial soul. And so my feeling is what I figured out, that we have right now this, because the human souls keep activating and activating and activating. We used to have 15%, and I actually think that right now we're at 1/3. They may not be aware of it on a mental level, and in fact a lot of people are not aware. They're just being and living their life and all of that stuff, but they hold that energy of a human soul, meaning that they're connected to their spirit, and they're working in their own way through healing. They are just not talking about it. But there's 1/3, and then 1/3 are the shallow souls, meaning they're harvested souls by astral, so they're directed, connected to astral levels, and they're under control or under working for that agenda. But they're shallow souls, meaning that they still have connection to their spirit, and they can regain their vehicle back by clearing all the. So it's like the middle part. So here's where the HK comes in with the sweeping broom, and when people decide to clear all the and disconnect from the astral timeline. So the 1/3 of the people, and then the 1/3 of the people, I don't know, the artificial souls, I'm still working on it. What's going to happen to them? I don't know, because the shallow souls still have a chance, and through that process of reconnecting with the planet and all of that stuff, and healing and going through all those processes, they still have the ability and capability to step on Earth's timeline.
But they have to choose it too.
Yes, it's completely has to be their choice.
Right.
And right now they've been this 1/3. The shallow souls right now are being sort of
manipulated.
And this is the people that will have a lot of like astral attacks and things like that, and they'll see miracles and crap like that, you know, because they're being sort of romanticized by astral timeline right now, because they still have to choose that timeline. They have to make the choice.
They're the one. There's still hope for them, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that these people can choose, but the artificial souls are kind of strange, because it seems like that somehow, and what, you know, Jeff, what you were talking about, that what in that video, Dolores
Cannon,
about the backdrop people, and didn't she say that they're soulless? Well, they're not soulless because they have a memory in that, but it's just an artificial soul.
Can I make a point here? I think I think it's nice to be able to understand this. It's important to be able to understand it, but we have to take this out of the mental realm.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, I'm saying this because in my own personal experience, when I started trying to integrate a lot of this information with percentages and people are this or people are that, I got caught in this. I think it was a trap.
In the math?
What?
You got caught in the math?
I got caught in this thing that I just started judging people, but it was all mental, and it was creating a separation. But it was all mental, you know. Because it just became so easy to say, okay, they don't get what I get, so they're part of the 85%. You know, screw them. And it's so easy to say, okay, it might be might be able to label people artificial soul, or look at them and say they're on the, what was the other term, the
shallow
souls and stuff like that. And they may be, but we have to bring that into our direct experience.
Yes, and this is what I was going to talk about next, is we can practice, you know. You don't have to say anything to the person. You don't have to judge them. You don't have to do anything. But what you can do is just have the knowing for yourself. So then you know how to engage with each individual. This is what I want to get from this. This is what I'm trying to figure out here. Okay, if there is that many artificial souls, they're usually not going to be the people that we talk with. But some of the things, some of the clues, we've talked about it, the psychopath, all of those standards, that's artificial souls. Okay, then if you go to a shallow soul, you always know that that person still has a connection to spirit. So when we are in company of this type of people, shallow souls, what we can do is we can express our own human soul, so then that energy within them can connect to us. And the reason why we should know this and we should figure it out, how these different souls feel, is because so we know to express the energy of source through us, especially with the shallow souls right now, because they are being romanticized by astral timeline. They being, they're like those, I don't know, they're like those peacocks, with all of that, they're, beautiful things that they show you, but, it's a show for right now. Astral timeline's creating a show for this shallow souls, because they've got the artificial souls. They don't need to worry about that.
Right. And of course, you can hear when I type stuff on the chat and all this kind of thing. I don't deal with the new age people in my environment. I deal with the people that are being romanticized by the likes of Donald Trump and spokespeople like him. And Ed knows a little bit about it too. He made a comment about getting, brochures to, go hide somewhere kind of places. Those people are equally, they don't have to be in the new age to be shallow. That means that your neighbor down the street who doesn't know a darn thing about any of this stuff, but they know damn well that they hate Democrats because they're liberal, and a liberal is almost is a socialist, and that's almost a communist. And you got to kill a commie for God or Christ or something. And that's how the mindset works with those folks. But I deal with a lot of people numerically every day, and I still see that spark in them. And that's I know what you're talking about, and it does work that way. So you can be yourself, you can be in your truth. No, you don't have to convince them that they're totally wrong and you're totally right, and you're going to reteach them everything in 5 minutes. Hell no. You just show them that there's another way to be, and you live it. You do. You live it by example, and occasionally a word now and then. A wise word. They come. The wise words do come, because they're not necessarily things that get broadcast all over the internet. They're to the moment, and they're wise for the person when they're hearing it. It's a simple little thing. You don't even have to plan it. It happens. Okay.
I know. Today I was, shopping for the mirrors for my bathroom, because we were redoing the bathroom because it broke and we had to redo it. So I'm shopping for the mirrors, and I need to, and I only found one that I want to buy, and I want the lady to go and check on the back if they have another one. I come up to her, and she's crying. So, but there's nobody else to ask for help. So I come up to her and I ask her, if she is willing and able to help me, because I can't find anybody else, and I need another mirror for them to check if they have it on the back. Well, make it long story short, by the end of it, they didn't have the mirror. She was apologizing to me that they didn't have the mirror. And I don't even remember what I said, but I totally said something so off. I told her something that, on the end, she said, "You almost make me feel sorry for being sorry." And I said, "Because you don't have to apologize that you don't have the mirror. It's just a freaking job. And it's not your responsibility, But anyway, with all my stupid talk, by the end of that conversation, she was laughing. And when I came up to her, she was crying. And it was nothing, I didn't talk about any woo-woo stuff or anything. I just said something stupid.
That happens to me every day. That's how come I know that personal feedback. I know it's right, because I do that shit all the time. And it's nothing significant. It's only a moment. But they notice that for a moment, they're not where they were. They're somewhere else, and it feels good. And they invariably, you can see a response from them in that kind of terminology. And they say, you can tell it. They say, "What the hell just happened?"
Because when you are a human soul, then, you can relate to those that have a bit of that human spark, even if that's just a tiny bit.
Right.
Because you are a full spectrum, and you can come out in that exact point where they are to meet them to meet their humanity within them.
That's
human being.
That's what we can do. We don't,
because as a human being, right? As a human being, you can always connect to the human part of that other person.
That's absolutely true. I just wanted to make that point that yes, you're not talking theory. I'm telling you, it's reality.
Yes.
It works that way. And I don't go out, I don't pre-plan anything anymore. I don't really have a physical calendar, but I know I'm supposed to be places at certain times, and I find myself there. I'll set an alarm in the morning and all stuff, just like everybody else. But as far as happens moment to moment, I let it happen, and then I respond. And I use that word advisedly. I respond. I don't react. What reaction is. I even feel what a reaction is, but as soon as it happens, I say, that's a reaction. I'll take the moment and respond. And no, I don't put it in language, but that's a language description of what transpires. I take that moment, and invariably, It's a response. That's all, you know. That still leaves a third, by the way. You covered 2/3. So are you saying the final third are how would you phrase that?
So the 1/3 would be already those that act from within their human spirit and you know, and their human soul. Because what is happening as you start to express your spirit, you know, you express a soul that's human, meaning your memory and everything is going to be your human reality.
Are you saying that that's what you basically, are you going so far as to say that's...
So what I'm saying that what we had as a 15%, now it's 1/3.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. Okay, like I say, I had a couple of questions and I actually did want to say something tonight. Okay, I'll let it go.
That what I'm saying that is not no way for to judge people, but I mean we all know there's nothing you can do. That the artificial souls, they're just, you know them, they're called by many different names, you know, it's just who they are, and that's the people. I am not sure what's their future is or what's going to happen to them, and I honestly, it's not my business sort of how,
and
you
also,
know, what's going to happen to them.
My experience of them, I think, is that if I meet somebody that there's nothing I can do. And it's not my responsibility.
Exactly.
And so you just go on.
That's exactly the way it works, Ed.
And the only responsibility we have to all the shallow souls is to be ourselves. Because that's responsibility to our own selves, is to be ourselves, to be human, compassionate, act out of love, not push our game on anybody and not go into anybody else's game, but just be and express our own humanity. That's all the responsibility we have.
And that's sufficient. It is sufficient. At least I think it is.
Because I see a lot of this artificial souls are, you know, there's many of them in alternative media. They just kind of, you know, go with the program and all of that stuff, and they affect a lot of the souls that haven't figured it out what's going on yet. They again work really hard day and night to trick people into some next greatest thing that's coming, you know. And maybe that's why I am saying still, you know, and putting it publicly out there that, you know, there's still some shit that's going to hit the fan. So, you know, because all this artificial souls are promising all this, you know, greatest things that are supposed to happen. It's up to us to create this reality. So we can't wait for something great to happen. We are great, so we got to start acting great. We got to start acting like creators. We got to start acting as human beings. We have that responsibility to, like Niels, you like to say, to push that reality out from within out. That's our responsibility. That's what we do. This is why we keep working on our self-healing, so we can express our own creation. So we don't have all those blockages within us. And so basically what we're healing is all those blockages, all that static energy that's created. So I guess that's why sometimes I say all those things that, you know, not all of it is roses and rainbows, you know, but we now know.
Unicorns and something else, huh?
I don't know. Sometimes it's like so hard to find the words that don't have already, you know, something attached to it that will create some sort of belief or numb you. There's a lot of words that people use that are specifically programmed to numb you so you don't look. And one of those, well, savior programs, any kind of savior is meant to turn so you accept that something is coming to save you, so you turn off your creative power and you give it away unconsciously. You give it away unconsciously. You allowing that program to take over your creative power. And so you say, okay, come. And then this is what ultimately they're trying to do with having CERN in Switzerland be all over the alternative media and everything, because that also takes that our human focus attention on that, and then we're completely blind to what CERN is actually doing, because we're all focused on that, and everybody's trying to destroy that CERN or do whatever, or try to figure out what those little things mean and all of that stuff, and hating so much that CERN. And that actually takes human energy in, redirects it to a different CERN, and then they create whatever they need to create. So it's kind of a, two-edged sword, I guess, talking about the truth, because what is happening, it gets twisted and it gets used against humanity, because they need to turn us off. But they can't, so we have to turn ourselves off. And so they create all the situations for us to turn ourselves off. And be it our own fear of what we're going to find, what kind of programs we're going to find within, or what's going to show up in our reality. And so all of that is being manipulated. So we turn that switch off. Because again, we are in control of ourselves. We've seen this. We've talked about this, how when somebody who is trying to help humanity to come out of this system, when they get interfered with or when they get taken over, the first thing they do is they destroy their own work and they destroy themselves, and they turn that switch off. And what do they say? I'm off. I turn it off. Somebody else is going to do it. It's too much for me.
Yeah, we've heard that too many times, haven't we?
It happened too many times to too many good people.
Yeah.
Too many good people that brought a lot of valuable information. And so when that interference gets in, first thing it does, it destroys their own hard work through them. So they are the ones who are destroying it.
Yep.
Because we are still in charge. So the interference still has to do it to us, through us. So whatever's done to us, it's done through us. And this is why we talk about understanding how we create, how the interferences actually works, and all of that stuff. So I guess, go ahead, Ed.
I just wanted to make one comment here. I'm thinking that to turn it off effectively, and I'm going back to the beginning of our talk tonight, the only way to really turn it off is to turn ourselves on in a new direction. And I was just thinking, one of the problems I think I experience, and I think probably others do, this new direction is unknown, and where we can be afraid of it, or we think, oh, this new direction can't be effective, and so we go back to where we think we're being effective, trying to deal with all this shit and make sense of it, or overcome it, or do something about it and stuff, because that's what we're used to, and that's what we're think is going to work. And we're just too afraid to trust, just to allow ourselves to be absorbed in something that we don't know the end result.
Yeah.
But we have to.
We have to. That's why we talk about that, the importance of being connected to yourself, the importance of trusting yourself, the importance of trusting the human part of you, trusting the planet and all of that stuff. Because once you are stable in that feeling, when you can recognize your 0 point, when you know what it is, then it will be very difficult to turn you off. So that empowers and gives us strength to keep that switch on, no matter how much bombs are flying at you from outside world.
I can't imagine
that's
the
our strength.
I can't imagine the circumstance, and I actually tried to imagine the circumstance where I could turn myself off anymore. I just don't believe it's possible. I don't want to, obviously, and I just don't see how I could get out of this.
Yeah, I keep saying there is no turning back, because once you feel what it is, even for a split second, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to turn yourself back.
I'm saying, for me, personally, I feel it's impossible, and I don't, like I say, I don't want to anyway.
But we've seen so many good turned on people turn themselves off.
Yeah, I guess you're right there.
So, when I see something like that, I go, oh shit, it is possible to turn somebody off. I better be careful and not be so, I don't know.
Trusting?
So sure of myself, I guess. All right, we've been at it for 2 hours and a half. So I guess we should wrap it up. Anybody wants to talk about anything else? Maybe, some new feelings or new insights,
I've got a sum up slogan from what you said.
Oh.
Believe in yourself, be alive in yourself. To me, that was the big message today, and it's got a good ring to it. Believe in yourself, be alive in yourself.
That sounds good, Niels.
Good. And yeah, let's, we talked about, artificial souls and everything, and shallow souls, and we sort of putting people in the boxes, it seems, but it's just that we still can express ourselves on our human level to everybody. And I had a habit of, don't do that anymore, of trying to bring people attention to their human part, like when I did the video for Simon Perks, to say, tune into your humanity, because you can be a lot more powerful. Well, when people aren't ready for that, there's nothing you can do. So with artificial souls or shallow souls, you can try, you can say something, but sometimes it's just expressing that, or acknowledging the human within them. And that would basically what I tried to do with Simon Perks, is acknowledge his humanity. And with the words that I said, I don't know if that was taken that way, but to acknowledge somebody's humanity within them when they don't acknowledge their own humanity. It can do some interesting tricks, because once you acknowledge their human part, that human part of them will react to your acknowledgement. So it could be surprising how people react when you acknowledge their humanity, even though they don't acknowledge it themselves. Okay, Ed is showing that we need to cut this thing. Cut it off, Lily. Cut off talking nonsense. Oh, okay, I know what you're saying. Cut off the recording.
So, good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.